At time with Jordan. Is this mic on? The mic is live. Alright, we are ready to go. Footy talk. Alright. On the radio, let's talk footy. Yes, this is AI. Keen to get started. Pump those ratings up high. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And there we have it, folks. Our new intro that is generated by AI, as it says in the song lyrics. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Bit of a laugh, guys. And you know what? I'm going to keep it because I paid a subscription to some AI service for it. I'm not musically talented. I'm going to keep it. I own it now. Thank you, AI. You are an absolute gem for me. And anyway, that's not why we're here. Hopefully that was a bit of a laugh for you guys. And yeah, a bit catchy too. Don't mind it. So, continuing on today, we have the Western Bulldogs season preview. So, you know, the Doggies have finished last year 14-9 on the season. Finished 6th on the ladder overall, and it was another year with this talented core and another missed opportunity in my book. You know, they had all the momentum. Them and the Lions were two of the informed teams coming into the finals, but really only one of them was able to capitalise on it. Of course, that being the Lions. And I think the Luke Beveridge coaching experience continues to bewilder many, and probably myself included. The final against the Hawks, they had a clear advantage in the air inside their forward line, which they really weren't able to capitalise on. Now that may have been a bit out of their forwards' control sometimes, with Bont, Libber and Treloar all being subpar with their disposals. But regardless, they had an advantage that they were unable to convert on. And, then the decision as well to move Bont to full forward was just a weird move to me. You have the best player on the field by far, taken out of his natural position to play in an area that you already had a perceived advantage in is certainly quite a decision by the Bulldogs coaching staff. And then he started the last quarter back inside, and he played well at that point, but the damage was sort of already done, and the momentum had already shifted well into the Hawks' favour. And I think that that was just another example of just questionable coaching. I think Luke Beveridge did well earlier in the year when he was sort of had a bit of tough love to some of the players like Bailey Dale and Caleb Daniel and stuff. I think that they, especially Bailey Dale, came out of it for the better, and he definitely made Riley Sanders earn his minutes as well in the team. So I think it's not all bad by Luke Beveridge last year, but when it mattered most, there was just a lot of questionable decisions for mine, which you can't put all on him. The players were out on the field, but that move in particular, where they already had an advantage that they weren't able to take advantage of, and put Bontempelli in the forward line was just sort of mailed their season in my opinion. So the personnel on this team was good enough to make it to a grand final, but they went out in the first week, and overall I think that it was a pretty disappointing season for the Doggies, especially after their ripping form in the back end of the season. And that's probably I'll shift to focus on this season now, 2025, and let's go with the ins and outs of the Doggies. And coming into the team, they have Sam Davidson, Josh Dolan, Cooper Hines, Lockie Jarks, Luke Kennedy, and Matt Kennedy. No relation, of course. Matt Kennedy coming across from the Blues. And then going out of the team, we have Dominic Bedendo, Charlie Clark, Caleb Daniel, of course, Alex Keith, Jack McRae, Aiden O'Driscoll, unfortunately with his concussion early last year, and then Kelsey Ripstra as well. And then, of course, Bailey Smith too. So, a lot of core guys going out for the Doggies while they were without Smith all year, of course, but no more Caleb Daniel, Jack McRae as well, and then Alex Keith, who's been a sort of a stalwart back there for them in recent years. Couldn't get much of a game last year, which is probably not the biggest out in the end, but it's going to be interesting to see how their culture sort of changes after a couple of those guys being pretty publicly disgruntled, I guess. Get their chance elsewhere, so it leaves a bit of a void for the Bulldogs in terms of experienced players, I think. And I think going into this year, a lot of as for expectations, sorry, let me clarify, I think a lot of this sort of hinges on their forward line, and I don't really think they clarified much at all in the offseason in that regard. I would have wanted them to honestly maybe look at moving one of Jamara or Aaron Norton just to consolidate the forward line, because there is three of them, and they don't really have the best chemistry together, and I think they're always going to have some level of diminishing returns on having three key forwards who generally have pretty much overlapping skill maps and need to be used as marking targets to get the ball, which is okay in theory, but like what else are they contributing apart from being like focal points hop forward? I don't think you need three of them, and I don't really see a way around them being a bit of a clunky fit, not only because of the overlapping skills that I sort of talked about and those diminishing returns, but you're also missing out on the pressure that another small or mid forward would sort of provide. And I think, that was one of the ways that they lost the elimination final against Hawthorn. That the Hawks would easily rebound from their defensive 50 against the Dogs forward line without a lot of pressure. And if you're unable to get repeat entries, there's even less of a point in having three massive key forwards, in my opinion. So, I think the way that the game is shifting as well, there seems to be less of an emphasis on, like those big, bulky sort of key forwards. I think, like, you look at some of the teams last year, like Brisbane, who ended up winning the premiership, like they of course had Joe Danaher and Eric Hipwood, but they're not necessarily those big, pack-breaking forwards. I think there's still a place for those guys in the game, but even those guys you could probably consider as more of like a ground ball team, I guess, or ground ball forwards. Joe Danaher, of course, pretty good in marking contests, but I just don't know what they do here with these three massive key forwards, and could they play Jamara, Norton, or Darcy on a wing? I really would be hesitant to do so. I think like they've already sort of tried that anyway, like putting Norton up the field more like to varying successes last year. He's played down back before. Maybe he's the one that goes back with the absence of Liam Jones. But yeah, I don't really think that Jamara Ugle-Hagan has the type of tank, especially coming off a bit of a interrupted pre-season, to be able to play higher up the ground, and that's sort of leaving him in the forward line. I don't think he's a defender by any means either. And then Sam Darcy is clearly the absolute best of this group, so he's not really an option to move away from the goal square or the forward line, I would have thought. So, just running through all those sort of possibilities, it seems it to be a bit of a problem, and that they don't really have an answer for, in my opinion. And maybe it is just playing Jamara in the twos, to be honest, and then playing him conditionally, similar to how they did with Rory Lobb last year. They just couldn't fit him into the team, and then went back to the VFL and found some form as a backman, and came back into the side and performed really well. So, it's not the best situation to have to like sort of figure it out on the fly, and obviously the whole Jamara situation off the field is its own problem in itself. So I don't know, maybe it solves itself in that regard, and keen to see how they work through that, because I don't think you can go another year with all three of them in the forward line. And before I move on from the forward line, before I move on from this key forward mess, I sort of just want to say that Sam Darcy is just truly phenomenal. I think that there's a chance that he wins the Coleman this year, and probably starts a long run of All-Australian appearances in that. He's truly just, like, I'm sure everyone's caught on by now, but he is a generational forward, I think, and it feels a bit like a 210 centimetre like Wayne Carey sort of vibe. He just has the skills of a small player, which is something we just haven't really seen at that size, as well as being incredibly tough and has really good hands as well in marking contests. So the sky is absolutely the limit for Sam Darcy. I don't think people might get sick of the hype as the season goes on, but I think this hype is well deserved in his case. And I'm not going to be one that's going to be shouting for commentators to not sing his praises this year, because I think he is just that good. The defense for the Doggies is looking a little shaky to me. Rory Lobb was a great story last year, but will teams be able to expose him now that they have some tape from last year? I just wouldn't want him to necessarily be isolated as the deepest defender at times, which often has been Liam Jones's role. And how many times does Liam Jones makes stops in that role, but without him to start the season with his injury, I think his Lob's going to have to play a huge role, and something I'm not really I don't really know if he's ready to fill after only just proving himself as a defender. And he's been solid, don't get me wrong, but it's just a bit of cause for concern for him to start being the leader down there after only really half a season in the back line. And I think that their issues go beyond that. I think they really need a clone of Ed Richards. I think, they need him inside in the midfield, but also they need him down back with the lack of depth they have down there, and I'd suspect that they move him back to start the year. I just don't think that they can. Yeah, the Doggies have a lot of injuries and they can't afford to have a slow start again and not get themselves in a position where they might be able to challenge for the top 8, let alone top 4 this year. And I think, that slow start is probably inevitable just due to the amount of injuries of, Bontempelli and Jones in particular. This team is going to need to rely on Tom Liberatore in the middle a lot and Sam Darcy up forward, which, could happen, but they need other guys to step up too. And Tim English is the one as well for me who really needs to step up. He's sort of played as one of the premier ruckmans a few years ago, but hasn't really taken many steps in terms of the consistency to play at that level in the previous couple of years. And I think he really needs to cement himself again as one of the absolute best ruckmen in the league for them to have much of a chance, especially with some of the departures through the midfield with Jack McRae. They lost the depth there, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all works. And Cody Waitman, I think, is another one who's going to have a big year. He's injured to start the year as well, but I've been a big fan of him, and generally I think when he plays well, so do the Doggies, and his role is just so important, being one of the only real small forwards that has the ability to hit the scoreboard as well. And it sucks that he's going to miss the first 8 or so weeks of the game and of the year, and so is Jason Johannesson. I'm talking about the lack of depth in the back line as well. He's not going to be back there to start the year. 6 to 8 weeks for him as well. It's just, they're just piling up, unfortunately, for the Doggies. So they need guys like Tim English and to stand up when it probably hasn't at times, and it's going to be hard for him to do, I guess, with the amount of injuries. And I guess, it's going to be a weird one for the Doggies because they brought across Matt Kennedy, of course, as well, and I'm just wondering, is he going to... I saw him play second ruck at times in the preseason, and I think that's something you can potentially lean on, but when you have that many key forwards as well, surely you're trying to get one of them, Sam Darcy, most likely around in the contest. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Matt Kennedy, and if they do deploy the Michael Voss playbook of using him as the utility. But I think with the lack of midfield depth at the start of the year, there might be a need for him to actually just play as a straight up midfielder as well. And despite some of the obvious talent that this team has, I think they've unfortunately, as I said, sort of been hit massively by the injury bug. I've talked about Bont, Liam Jones, Jason Johannesson, but also Treloar's out as well to start the year, so he's the other one who I'm talking about when I'm saying that the midfield depth is just not quite there, and that's just a lot of top end talent that's missing to start the year. And then when they all come back, they'll need to play into form a little bit and get acclimatised to the rest of the team. So I don't think the Dogs are necessarily going to be... They're going to have a very slow start to the year, I'd imagine, and they definitely won't be flying. Even if they get everyone healthy, those first few weeks, they're probably going to be finding their feet a bit still. And it's probably not going to happen until about halfway through the season, if at all, for the Dogs. And for a team that struggles with consistency at the best of times, I think they will have a very disappointing year. And I don't want to get the pitchforks out too soon, but this could be the year that the Doggies look to move on from Luke Beveridge. I think maybe not through his fault of his own. I think the injuries are stacking up against him here, but the writing's been on the wall for a couple of years now, and if they're in the bottom 4 halfway through the year, then it's a pretty easy decision, I think, to sort of cut your losses there and try and reinvigorate for next year even, or try and get some that fired coach boost for the back half of the year. But the only hope they have really is that through all the injuries they find some form from some players that are on the periphery, and who then can fill the void while they're gone, and then play a role when they come back as well. And then they can just be supplementary to the Stars when they do return. And I just don't have a huge amount of faith in that actually happening though. So it's going to be interesting to see with the Doggies, I think, for me. And some players to watch though, I think, talking about the sort of concerns I have in the back half, one to watch in that regard is going to be James O'Donnell, son of Simon O'Donnell, ex-cricketer. But he's shown at times he has good smooth skills. I think he has ability to play tall or small, that always intrigues me as well. And I feel like he has the potential to be their best defender as early as the end of this year. I think they've definitely thrown him in the deep end. He was only drafted, mid-season? Oh no, he was training with the team at the start of last season, was he? I think. But he's going to be pivotal as well with the lack of Liam Jones to start the year down there. So he's going to have some serious roles to play, and I think they're going to play him as a tall defender to start the year anyway. And keen to see how he starts to develop. There's going to be a fair workload put on him, fairly or unfairly at the start of the year, but I think that he has the tools to become a really, really good defender, and I'm excited to see how he develops this year. Riley Sanders is the other one. Of course, he's the high draft pick. People are probably going to be keeping a pretty keen eye on him regardless, but I spoke about the lack of depth in the midfield with the injuries, of course, to Bont and Treloar, and then I think that's going to open the gates for Riley Sanders, and he showed an ability last year to be a bit of an accumulator at times of possessions, and when he got that opportunity, he definitely provided some ball-winning ability for them, and it's just a matter of how damaging he's going to be with those. And I think he gets the studio space this year to explore that a bit more and see if he can be be a running mate to Tom Liberatore early in the season. And I think they will need to play him in there at the moment. There's just no other choice really, and I think he has the upside to be able to compete in that area. And hopefully he shows the coaching staff that he belongs in there permanently, even when some of the other guys come back. And then, lastly, Sam Davidson. Just a really impressive hit out down in Tassie against the Hawks in pre-season. And he's just a rangy winger type. He gets himself out of trouble really well from what I saw, and was able to hit the scoreboard as well in the pre-season and racked up 30-odd touches in that game. So, maybe it was an outlier performance, but he looks really like a really good fine, mature age player, and he looks ready to contribute to the Doggies, and they might have really found a gem here, I think. And keen to see how he goes in this early part of the season and see if he's actually, up to it or not, I guess. And then as for my actual projections and ladder rankings for the Doggies, I've got them pretty low this year. I've sort of spoken about why I think that those injuries are just going to get them off to a pretty horrific start, and them not being the most consistent team in general. Once they do get their players back, I don't think that they're going to be able to go on a massive run or anything. At that point, it'll be sort of season over potentially for the Doggies, but I think they'll win some games in the back half of the year potentially, and that's why I've sort of put them as my 12th ranked team in the power rankings to start the year, and then also after going through the fixture, they've ended up 12th as well for that spot. So I think that the ceiling is pretty low on the Dogs this year. Just those injuries and stuff are just going to hold them back quite a bit. And I've spoken about the forward line. I think that come next year, next off season, they should be able to clean up. Just consolidate the list a little bit, I think. And those three forwards are always going to have value. And obviously not trading Sam Darcy. It seems like Jamara's the one that's going to be on the out. So he's going to have value around the league, and you're going to get a return for him. I think they go after a defender or another really good midfielder for themselves, or even a small forward. So they have a lot of needs at the moment, the Doggies, and Liam Jones getting on the back end of his career is also front of mind, I'm sure, for them too. So I think that if James O'Donnell provides that this year, then maybe they don't need a key defender as much. But I think that they've got assets to deal with in the next off season. So. They should be able to retool and then have another tilt at making top four in the year after. But I think that just the way it's shaping up for the Doggies and the level of competition at the moment around the league, there isn't really that much upside in this team this year, in my opinion. So that's why I've got them 12th in my power ranking and in the ladder projection. So that's where I'll leave it today for the pod, and thanks for listening to the Doggy season preview. Alright, catch us.